What is up, people? It is your boy MM2K of PNTS Network and CloudDosage, and I'm back again with, we're gonna call these, you know, for my people that are watching this live, this is sound off, but if you're watching this recorded VOD, we're gonna call this the MM2K's diabolical cloud convos or something like that. I like the word diabolical. Why? Because what I tend to bring up seems to be taboo or, oh, that's crazy, you know, in the cloud space as of late. And sometimes it may ruffle people's feathers. We understand that. It's just our point of view, or my point of view. I don't want to make it sound like this represents all of CloudDosage. It's me and me only. But nonetheless, I think it's something important that needs to be said. So I'm going to stand for my aisle and I'm going to talk about the latest and greatest in gaming news. I'm going to try to do it weekly. If you're a member here, you get to rock out with me live, ask me questions live on air, and you get to influence the show, really. If you're familiar with our content, then you know that our members very much so influence our show. Let me turn this music down just a tad. And those are the perks. Those are just one of the perks. There's giveaways, there's monthly giveaways, all types of stuff. So definitely something you want to look into and definitely become one of the members of this channel. All right, that said, I'm here because I want to talk about Boosteroid. All right. Boosteroid in the cloud gaming community, in the greater cloud gaming community, has been under some ire. It's been under this ire because there's this belief system that Boosteroid started off as this scammy blockchain company. And secondly, based off of what they're doing now, they don't have legit agreements with a big question mark around legit, what is considered legit. They don't have legit agreements to distribute games the way that they do. All right, so that's the big conspiracy that is not in the eyes of many. I won't even say most, because I think Boosteroid is doing pretty good for itself. Hogwarts, its instances with Hogwarts Legacy is testament to that, to where it kind of like crashed the service. They had so many people trying to get access to Boosteroid. Shout out to Rock. I was on his show. He was talking about how he was trying to get his daughter on the play while she was away at college and stuff like that. Like a lot of people now who are disenfranchised from being able to game in the mainstream way, who maybe saw use in Stadia, now realize that with Stadia gone, maybe Boosteroid is a great thing to add to their portfolio. You know what I'm saying? To get access to games that they want to play otherwise. Stadia's void has created like confusion amongst our group. And I think what happens sometimes is a lot of people within our group who were more fortunate, who had access to get games and get platforms, who easily converted from Stadia. I think they forget the needs and the actual focus of those that are not as fortunate as us. So some of these, they come up with some of these superficial gumshoe discoveries that they're like, hey world, pay attention to, look, this is why we think this is dangerous. And the rest of them are just the people that, again, have more dire need or looking, and they're like, it's not important to me. And the other side can't understand why it's not important to them. I'm going to break it down to you why it isn't. I'm going to help you understand that. We're going to take a look at these accusations. We're going to explain what they really mean in the real world and what I think is the takeaway from all this. All right. So let's go right ahead. Let's dive right into it. All right. So let's look at these accusations and let's talk about how damning they truly are. All right. And let's do this. I want to, you know, kind of provide some way for people to follow where we're at. So we're going to do how bad oops, the accusations. Accusation. Am I spelling accusations right? I believe so. Accusations. How bad? Okay. And then we're going to close that one. We're going to edit this one, and then we're going to say, and then what's the next part? But accusation. The accusations. But, and then we're going to close that. And then we're going to say the takeaway. The takeaway. Okay. All right. Close that. Accusations. Okay. So let's first start with the accusations. How bad are these accusations, again, that center around Boosteroid starting off as some scumbag blockchain, and also the fact that they now went from one business model to a completely different business model? How scummy is that in totality? So let's first talk about the blockchain. Okay, without going too far into the weeds or whatever, it appears that Boosteroid may have operated as a company that was into cryptocurrency. And it appears that venture didn't work out. So because that venture didn't work out, they may or may not have said, hey, look, we got servers up and running in certain locations. Let's convert these servers over to do cloud gaming. And and that could have very well be how they converted from one business model to another. So we got to ask ourselves, and we're going to get to that later, is that horrible? Because the way that this evidence is being provided, and another thing too is that the blockchain supposedly robbed people of money. All right. So what has to happen is you got to ask yourself, A, how horrible is it for you to be one type of business, that not work out, and you completely do something else? Is that a sign, or is that coherently a sign that something wrong is going on? Like if you started off as one business and that failed, and you try to convert your assets to something completely different, that's totally out of that sector, is that equivalent to, is that equal to something nefarious going on, and your business shouldn't be pursued after that because you tried out one thing, didn't work out, and you converted to something else. So that's question one. We're going to address that as well. And then question two is there 1,000% proof or 100% proof that people were scammed out of their money? Right. Now let's go to the game part of it. Well, no. Before I go to the game part, I want to say, as far as the blockchain is concerned, the blockchain thing looks like people have done research and pulled this stuff together or whatever. And it seems like that the attempt at a blockchain was accurate. In some people's findings, and it didn't work out. What it also seems like too is that the people were refunded their money after the whole blockchain thing didn't work. Now, people are saying that there are nefarious international actions that are happening with this company. And this company is doing nefarious and shady stuff internationally. And no telling what they're funding because of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, is it just a scam, or is it going into some more nefarious actions? You know what I mean? Here's what I have to say against that. All of the evidence that I saw showed that for the most part, people were paid back. If there were individual instances where people said I didn't get paid back, I haven't followed that paper trail to the very end to see if they eventually were paid back or whatever. It's like me with Stadia. I still haven't gotten everything back that I was supposed to get back from my Stadia refund. Excuse me. Stadia has made, or Google has made several attempts to fix it. But after I looked over my reconcilement, there's still some things that are off. I'm going to follow up with Google to get them rectified. Does that mean that Stadia is doing something nefarious because they had a failed business venture in Stadia and they haven't paid me back as they promised in totality? Does that mean that Google is up to something nefarious? I would assume not, because that requires a lot of record keeping that Google normally doesn't do. Google is not a fund transaction. They're not a financial institution. So this is totally out of their realm to do this at this juncture, at this level. So if they missed a couple of entries, or if the third-party vendor that they're working with missed a couple of entries, I'm not going to say that they're out doing something nefarious. Now, if I go to try to rectify this and I got all the evidence in the world to prove my point and they don't do it, then yes, I have other legal remedies to pursue the money that I was supposed to get back, that they promised that they would get back, right? I got other remedies to that. But again, like even in my case, if I were to go out there and send out a tweet and say, my name is John Doe and Google didn't pay me back my money and I feel like they robbed me and this is scandalous and this is wrong and this is whatever, where's my proof after the fact that Google rectified it? I don't know if anybody has that. If you do, send it to me. You know what I mean? But I'm seeing accounts to where in totality people were refunded from the blockchain. All right. Here's something else though that kind of shuts this down. And I know, and I have a lot of good friends. And I have a lot of good friends in high places, right? I have not CMA, I forgot what's the motion picture, MPA, former MPA lawyer, Motion Picture Association lawyer, friend of mine, and actually a mentor of mine and a fellow investor, talked to me about this whole thing about them illicitly using IP and putting it on their service, even when companies don't want them to. And he laughed. He said, who is coming up with this stuff? Where is this stuff coming from? And he explained to me why, and I even interjected because he didn't understand the depths of the whole Databeo thing, where Databeo, they were streaming content illegally. First, nobody cared until the stuff came in the States, and then when the stuff came in the States, they were like, oh no, we care. Let's do something about it. And you have groups like the ESA that they're not as big as the Motion Picture Association, but the ESA and the MPA work together on certain things. I guess to to share notes on legal issues that are related in whatever fashion, because they're both entertainment mediums, right? There's no way that if, for instance, Sony didn't want you streaming their game, that you're still going to stream it. It's not happening. Especially not happening if the same entity is now striking deals with Asus and NVIDIA, with these big Fortune 500 companies. They're striking deals with them, and they're potentially getting, some financial gain from it. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work like that. It's particularly in this case about the blockchain. When you have issues of actions, abhorrent actions like that are being accused here, and they're international, you likely more times than not will end up on what's called the OFAC list. And people, what? OFAC list? What is that? Let me explain something to you guys and gals. There's something going on to where a lot of accusations are made, but the dots aren't connected in the right places. I have no reason to cap. I have no reason to lie about video games. And I have no reason to boost myself up over video games, because I'm not becoming rich off of this. This is not helping my bottom line out at all. What I do is multinational. And it's part of my job to monitor activity as it comes through the OFAC list. You don't know what the OFAC list is? Let's look it up. OFAC list. Let's pull it up right here. So the OFAC list. Oh crap. Or what is here? Let's do it this way. What is the OFAC? Okay, no. What is the OFAC list? All right. So let's do this. Let me show you something. This is straight from the HomeTreasury.gov website. The OFAC list is an Office of Foreign Assets and Control Sanctions Program and Information. The Office of Foreign Actions Control of the U.S. Department of Treasury administers and enforces economic and trade sanctions based on U.S. foreign policy and national security goals against threatened foreign countries, regimes, terrorists, international narcotics traffickers, those engaged in activities. Hold on, I can't even highlight it. Related with the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and other threats of national security, foreign policy, or economy of the United States. This part is important because after 9/11, the OFAC list became real broad and wasn't just against sanctioned companies, meaning any financial transaction that happens with an entity prior to 9/11 where the entity was sanctioned really just included assets tied to countries that we didn't like, in the United States, like Syria, you know what I mean, or Iran. When in our back and forth tiffs with Russia, if the money was tied to the government, that's what really measures like OFAC. That's what they were made for. But since 9/11, they have been really broad. And the money that is being transferred doesn't necessarily even have to be tied to weapons of mass destruction, national security threats, like as far as bodily harm. They could just be nefarious actions from international entities. I've had people where we've interacted with their transactions. They were a hit on the OFAC list. They had to be notified, you're an OFAC listee, and we can't process your transaction. What am I on the OFAC list for? Which they probably knew because it likely had something to do with litigation, involving the United States. And they didn't live up to their agreement or whatever, so they were put on the OFAC list. Because whatever even if what you're doing affects things monetarily, or there was monetarily losses of a broad scale or a significant scale, you're going to end up here. And I've seen people on the OFAC list that I can estimate were doing smaller business than Boosteroid. Why am I bringing OFAC up? Because if this company was truly engaged in some blockchain nefarious stuff, even if it was happening overseas, United States is paying attention to that. If there were international investors, and because Ukraine is involved, and you can end up on the OFAC list even if you're an allied country, but there's war-torn activity happening. I've seen that too. Boosteroid wouldn't be able to do business here. It's not hard now, if you're a foreign entity, especially when there's issues of a monetary substance, for you to make the OFAC list. I've been dealing with this stuff for over 20 something plus years. Part of my involvement with government entities and at the level that I do it is why I don't show myself on camera. because of the government work that I do, I would have to get permission to show my likeness, my entity, live on camera. I'd have to get approval. And the theory behind it is, because of what I do, I'm a heavily influenced person, meaning, hey, MM2K, I know, speaking of OFAC, I know so-and-so made the OFAC list. How about I send you $3,000 in super chat? You get them. You make sure that even though they show up on the OFAC list, that somehow their stuff is processed. Stuff is a concern. So to keep that separate, so I don't have to go through those approvals, which in all likelihood wouldn't go through, my personal persona is separated from this YouTube persona. They have to remain separate in order for me to do this. All right. So when I don't see entities that people are saying, oh, they're likely involved in international affairs that of nefarious nature that deal with financial situations, and I don't see said entity ever on the OFAC list, and they're able to just transition to business and do business here, there are people watching this stuff, and they're watching it thoroughly. As someone who works closely with the government on finding people, yes, I can tell you stories, but I'm not, because I'm not allowed. You would be amazed at the tools that the government has at their disposal to find. If the government wanted to find you under a bridge, they could find you. You cut yourself off from the world, they will find you. So I find it hard that with all of the economic upheaval that this stuff supposedly caused from Boosteroid's former entity in the whole blockchain business, and how controversial blockchains are now, that they were able to convert over to a cloud streaming business and bring actual servers over here and have them operate with no problem while they're in a war-torn area. Because the theory is that while certain areas are engaged in war, that just opens the possibility for nefarious actions to happen. For laundering, money washing, all types of stuff to happen. So whether you're friend or foe, particularly if you're a foe, but it doesn't matter whether you're friend or foe, war-torn area associated to nefarious financial activities, it's the way that is being described to me and the stuff that I've seen and I've looked at. I got to know why they didn't hit OFAC. There are people watching this stuff. So some of these harebrained conspiracy theories need to stop. Finding something is one thing, but you gotta be able to kick the tires on the stuff that you find. Don't say, oh, I got this, so this is what it means. This may be a red flag. Let me kick the tires on this. Is there an explanation, a feasible explanation? If you don't do that latter part of your own investigations or the things that you believe, then your findings are heavily flawed. Why didn't they hit OFAC? That's question number one that I would have. All right. So the whole, they scammed people, they've conned people, and they've got away with it. I find that hard to believe, without me following every single accusation that may have been made online and seeing how the transaction ended. Because again, like I said, I'm in a situation right now to where Google said that they would have most of these transactions handled by the 23rd of January. We're almost a month later. I still didn't get everything taken care of. But is there a reason behind it? Before I go to the airwaves, Google is scamming me. No. Let's go. There's a lot of transactions that they're processing. I can understand it, but I'm going to show them I'm going to fine tune my reconcilement, bring it to them, and see what is the result. Now, let's just say if I just went willy-nilly and hit the internet and just started making all these accusations, that being there within itself isn't evidence. Because have you reached out to me to see if it was ever resolved? Or are you just going off of something that was posted somewhere? Because I could after I posted that, I could have went to Google the same day and they could have resolved this. Oh yeah, that's right. We owe you X amount of dollars, Mr. MM2K, here you go. And I never would have went back online to confirm. Oh yeah, now this is resolved. My bad. I mean, did we follow up there and see if the transactions were resolved? Or did we just find something and fill in the gaps without any conclusive kicking of the tires and additional research? So that's the whole blockchain thing. Again, to me, that's well beyond my scope. And I'm gonna get into why. To me, getting into that part is even silly. I'm not worried about it because, again, because of what I do. I know the government is on. The government isn't as aloof and as detached as a lot of you think they are. Your jaws would drop and your eyeballs would fall out of your face if you understood the tools the government had at their disposal. And let me tell you something else. Because of what I do and the correspondence that I got to do with the government on certain things, or the correspondence that I've had to do with the government, because my functions are a little bit different now. They're still tied to this. So I'm still held under the same regulations as far as getting approval for this and that if I want to do anything outside of work. But I don't do the investigative part anymore. Like I said, I've done the investigative part. I've actually participated in the drafting or the redrafting of Uniform Commercial Code. I've given testimony and stuff and evidence towards that. So with that being said, there are certain things that the government has come to us on and said, hey, look, these are the things that you guys need to watch out for. And we've said, well, hey, how are we going to watch out for this stuff? Because it requires tracking that, quote unquote, to us doesn't even exist. And the government has come back to us and said, well, I tell you what, here's tools and software that we used to use 10 years ago that we've allowed the company that we've worked with to put this out on the market retail wise, because now we have more enhanced systems and we're working with different companies. So these are very good. I mean, what we have at our disposal is better, but these tools are good enough for you to use now because they're not out on the market. And this is the stuff that we used 10 years ago. And we go to use it, this 10-year-old software that is now out on the market, and we're like, hold on, you had these capabilities 10 years ago? What? Don't always fall victim to the conspiracy theories. As far as I can see, what it looks like to me, and again, this is well out of scope for picking where I'm going to play games. You know what I'm saying? This is where I'm lost, but this is well out of scope for picking where I'm going to play games. But I'll say this. From what I can see, a blockchain thing was attempted. It didn't work out. They remedied the situation by giving people their money back. It could have been done sloppily, or, it could have been done probably not in the most ideal way, and that's why there were some complaints. But it seems like that as far as all the regulating bodies and the overseers of such situation are concerned, they've satisfied those bodies. So that's a chapter in Boosteroid's existence that appears to be closed legitimately. Okay, that's thing number one. Now that we've gotten past that weird, really it was weird to me, that weird creepy realm of following the blockchain that's really out of scope for people that just want to look for games. Again, like I said, there's something symptomatic going on here where people that are more fortunate enough to have other platforms and tick this off as, it's kind of like you have two lines of people. You have people that, you know what I mean, that that are looking to eat, and they go to a fish market. And so one person comes out of and there's two lines. So there's one line for people trying to get the most expensive fish, and there's a line where people are trying to get the average fish. You know what I'm saying? And maybe the average fish is on sale. And these people are they're a lot less affluent. They don't have the financial means the wealthier fish eaters have. And then somebody hops out of the line of the wealthier fish eaters and looks at the people getting the regular fish that's on discount. And they're like, hold on. You need to be advised that fish wasn't raised in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. Huh? What are you talking about? Over in Lake Minnetonka, the acidity levels in that water is 0.00009%. And it's a better balance for your body, and it makes it easier for you to go to the bathroom, where the average people that eat this fish that we're buying over here at $97 a pound, they usually go to the bathroom and they're done in the bathroom in about 3.5 minutes. Where the people that eat your fish, because of the alkaline levels aren't as good as the alkaline levels in this fish, because they're not raised in Lake Minnetonka, you guys are going to be in the bathroom for 3 minutes and 45 seconds, where I'm only in the bathroom for 3 minutes and 15 seconds. So don't get that fish. And the people in the other line are saying, mother, if you don't get out of man, we ain't got nothing in the fridge. My EBT card don't reload till 3 weeks from now. We broke, we starving. We could get 2 packs of this fish, 2 pounds of this fish at the rate of where we only could have got 1. Man, we're gonna be eating this fish and nothing but this fish because we're out of options. And I don't give a damn that this fish, the alkaline levels aren't as great as the fish that was raised in Lake Minnetonka. This fish is $3.99 a pound. Yours is $97 a pound. Why would I care about all that stuff? You can afford to sit there and go through all that bureaucracy of, well, this company does this and then this company doesn't do that. I can't afford that. As long as the fish is safe and it's not hurting me, it's great that your fish makes you poop 30 seconds quicker than my fish. I don't care about that. And the same applies here. Like, so what? They were another company. That's not an oddity. And I'm going to show you how much of an oddity it isn't. And yes, they proposed something that didn't work. And by all the regulating bodies that were involved, it appears that they've settled and rectified what they were doing. There's other documentation as far as their debt to investment ratio and all this stuff. Look, If I was using stock prices and the success rate of companies that were invested in a Fortune 500 company, I would have thought if that was a litmus that really held any weight, particularly to where I'm going to play my video games, then Google should be running the damn thing, right? We shouldn't even be talking about a Stadia shutdown. But no, one of the richest companies in the world, stock price is juicy. They doing all right. I mean, yeah, I get this attack, but they all right. Quit and left gamers in the dust. I'm not looking at Boosteroid's LLC papers. I'm not looking at who the registered agent is. It doesn't matter to me. They seem solvent enough to do what they're doing. And as far as any serious, impactful, explosive, nefarious deeds, I don't see any evidence. I don't see any hardcore evidence, just accusations of such. And as someone who has done what I've done for the past 2.5 decades, if these accusations are true, and OFAC isn't the only thing that we use, but I would expect to see them on OFAC or some of the other listings and stuff like that I got to keep abreast of because of the field that I work in. They would have hit one of them. There would have been a flag. I would be able to go to someone. Is there a flag on Boosteroid? I don't see any. Now let's get out of that weird region that, again, people who just have the luxury to sit there and worry about the acidity of the fish at the fish swimming at the fish market. People that have that luxury to bark about that, they want you to listen when you're just trying to survive. You know, they don't get it. I get it. See, I don't forget where I come from. I know. I remember when it was hard for me to get a console, watching my brother getting all the flies and stuff and me getting his hand-me-down. So I get it. I never forgot that. I just added to that. So I understand your plight, gamer. Those of you that are using Boosteroid. Those of you that have used it when Hogwarts Legacy came out and blew down the damn servers. All right. Now, let's talk about the game part. And let's really go into, well, MM2K, what sparked this conversation in totality? Well, apparently Boosteroid had put out a tweet talking about bots. Right. And apparently there was some issue with bots. And bots, people are complaining about bots that are trying to promote Boosteroid. And in the conversation that I saw, somebody was Boosteroid, I guess, was made abreast of this, and Boosteroid responded. We had nothing to do with the bots, but if you trust, and they gave the reasons why you should trust them. And they also said, but if you notice these bots, help us take them out. Now, reasonably, somebody came in and said they were skeptical about that. I mean, again, I'm not saying that they're liars. I'm not saying that they're telling the truth, but I get it. I understand. Like, why would bots come out and promote your service without you knowing or without your wishes? However, I can attest to that has happened to me. It has happened to me in such an egregious fashion that it appears it has shadow banned this very channel, among other things that were out of our control. Trust me, we weren't doing anything nefarious I was raised in the game to where if you bought subscriptions or you bought bots, you were heavily frowned upon as a creator. That's a big no-no where I come from. So no, absolutely not. What happened though was one day I was on Facebook posting my video as I normally do. Somebody hit me with a DM message and they said, hey, MM2K, you can, you can get your subscriptions up by this, that, and the third. And I said, oh, somebody's trying to sell me some bots. I said, no, thank you. And they were like, hold on, I'm going to show you. And how much of an increase that we can make just like that. And then within 5 minutes, it went up like 30 subscribers. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, yo, because I know that there's algorithms and stuff out there that track this stuff. So I'm like, yo, whoa. You don't have to do this. I appreciate the gesture. Thank you. You have a wonderful day. Right? But the bots never went away at first. Then I guess, and I didn't know where to check. I didn't know where to go. And I think some of the bots be hitting or something. I guess what they do is they hide them, because when I would go into my settings at the time, this was years. This was like 2020 or something like that. I think this happened. And the bots never went away. So one day Google did a check and maybe spotted some of them or whatever and took them down, right? I would assume took them down. And I said, oh, okay, they must just, because my volume went down around 30, and I was like, oh, they must have finally spotted those bots. Good, got rid of them. What about my business? Started noticing that views of content that we were doing were not accurate. I've had to contact Google on several occasions about it, and I have had thorough investigations done. And if you've ever talked to YouTube's customer service, if there's no meat and potatoes behind your concerns, they just show you statistics and they go about their business. They were actually engaging with me for like over a week, but they were doing it in a real peculiar way, like kind of like they did something, but they didn't want to admit it. And they were trying to figure out how I noticed that something was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Well, why would you ask that away? And it went back and forth for a week. And then finally, I noticed that the activity was normal. And I just told them, I said, well, look, guys, it looks like that you resolved the problem. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. But then other weird stuff later started happening. And all this happened after those damn bots. 30 of them. It's only 30 bots. 30 bots were added to the, what's it called? So, and what I should have done, which I wasn't aware of, it was like 30 bots at the most, and I didn't think anything of it. I just ignored it. I said, should I report this to YouTube? Like, because I told this person no, they'll just gradually drop off. And they never did, right? And I just was like, whatever. And I just went on about my business. The thing that I should have did is reported it. And if Boosteroid is being upfront and honest about this, that's why they've sent out that tweet, I would imagine. Because having people, when whoever are behind these bots and stuff like that, they're very aggressive. Trust me, I know from that experience. Oh, let me just show you. And you can't stop them from doing what they're doing. You can report it. And that's why they said, let us know and report so we can report it. That is a likely possibility. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to sit here and play the expert or act like a defense lawyer for Boosteroid. I don't know. But again, I'm just here to put everything out on the table so you can have a better understanding of what's going on instead of just going down controversy lane. It is possible, and I know from experience it is possible, that bots can start distributing stuff in your favor, and now that I think about it, I assume that they would do that because after a while they won't go away. You might get to feeling, oh, maybe I need you now. You know what I'm saying? Oh, well, because now you're causing me heartache. So now maybe I do need you. Maybe that's the theory behind why they do what they do. But it is a possibility that somebody's done it, quote unquote, on their behalf without their knowledge. It happens. It happened to me. And that's something that, again, affects this channel to this day. I still every 3 months, I got to contact YouTube, reference that original conversation, reference what happened, and in order for these weird issues to get resolved, and they still don't get fully resolved. So it has a lingering effect on the channel. So that's that. So even though I understand that part of the conversation of someone like, oh no, why would someone send out bots in your behalf? I have experience, particularly with this channel, that it can be done. All right. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the games. I think this is the biggest, the whole crypto thing is kind of like to try to add legitimacy to this. They must be doing something nefarious because they're getting access to games that GFN doesn't have. Right. So here's the evidence in favor of that. GFN doesn't have the games. And another thing, and this happened in a conversation I had one-on-one, even though this conversation I had with this individual has nothing to do with the stuff that I saw that triggered the response that you're hearing from me now. But this when I heard this, I said, okay, this sounds like some of the underlying stuff around the conspiracy theories associated to Boosteroid. Another thing that I've heard evidence that there is something nefarious going around with Boosteroid as far as them getting the games is anybody can set this up. All right. So now let's get into the real rebut part. Oops. Oh, what's going on here? Why did it do that? That's the wrong thing. There we go. So let's get into the real rebut of this, because I really feel like this is the meat and potatoes of the ire. Is that this company is getting games in the cloud that nobody else seems to be able to get. And the theory is because GFN doesn't have them. And as we all know, GFN is a legit bigger company. And if GFN doesn't get them, then these other companies, then there's no way that Boosteroid can get them. All right. So here's the problem with that. Anyone can distribute food. I like to use food as a scenario. You know, but just because I don't go through, let's just say I own a Red Lobster or a McDonald's or something like that, and you own a hot dog shop. Oh no, let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. I own a McDonald's. You have a hot dog truck, and you sell hamburgers and hot dogs on a hot dog truck. Now, granted, as a franchise owner of a McDonald's, there's a lot more bureaucracy that I got to go through because I'm part of a chain that's distributing food at a massive level. There's a lot more bureaucracy and checkups and auditing and things that I go through because of the nature of this broader business that your food truck doesn't have to go through. But does that mean that your food truck is illegitimate? Because you bought a food truck, put a generator in it, added a stove in it by yourself and started cooking food, does that make you illegitimate? So just because anybody can serve or do a product or a service, that doesn't make it illegitimate. And there's no difference because it's happening over the internet. Like, I used to sell games to people in Trinidad. And the only thing that wasn't right was a certain treaty or something like that my brother forgot to file for when we were shipping the games. I mean, that part of our paperwork wasn't right, but we wasn't stealing games out of game. We weren't doing anything nefarious. It was just the bureaucracy of some paperwork that we didn't have, and we said, you know what is better before we draw attention to ourselves. And it was too cumbersome anyway. So we stopped. You know what I'm saying? But like, just because somebody's doing something at a smaller scale or they're doing it at like an independent scale, that doesn't make it illegitimate. So what? And just because you're providing a service that gives people access to games, you don't have to be some big Fortune 500 company in order to do that. Just because you're giving people access to now again, if you were a publisher or something like that, and you were like, we're going to be sending out 12 AAA games a year, then all right, I want to see them LLC pay. I want to see, you know what I'm saying? I want to see all that stuff. Particularly if you're coming to me and you're selling a console. And you're like, we're going to have 12 exclusives a year and this and that and all that other stuff. And our console is $900. Yeah. Well, then I'm checking for the solvency in that regards. Because of what you're asking of me. But if I just want to try out a game on your service, I think I'm Gucci without you having to go through the bureaucracy, the red tape of a larger company. If I want to buy a hot dog or a hamburger from your truck, I think it's okay. No, it's reasonable. Do you have your Department of Health papers hanging up in this truck? Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Got that? Got your license to distribute food? Okay, we good. Again, McDonald's and Arby's and all them, they may have to go through more stuff. Wendy's, Burger King, they might have to go through more because, again, they're bigger companies, and the bigger your company is, the more the government gets involved, the more the government tries to find fault so they can make money off of you, and the more bureaucracy you got to deal with, and red tape and auditing and stuff like that. But that's not necessary for me to serve my food out of my truck. And there's nothing wrong with my food out of my truck. And to be honest with you, some of the more independent local stuff is better than your big brigade things. People just look, cloud gaming is a niche product right now. And it's mainly serving people who just want to access games who normally can't access them. The 99% of gamers don't have that problem. Only 1% of gamers have that problem right now. Now, cloud gaming is going to grow and be bigger than that, giving you native gameplay and stuff like that. And we're hoping that we get big partnerships in gaming because that's what's really going to push it forward. But for those people that just want to access games and play them under circumstances where they normally couldn't, you don't need all that bureaucracy. Because you want to know where all that bureaucracy and all that hold up and all that hang up leads to? Stadia. Where you can't rely on them to stick around. So if Boosteroid wants to be the food truck that simply has their Department of Health papers up there, then fine. I don't need, again, don't jump out of stay in your high class lane. Stop jumping in my lane telling me that I need my fish picked from the lakes of Lake Minnetonka with the acidity and alkaline levels of 0.3599B. I don't need that. And these gamers don't need that in particular. So it's again, in order to provide any service or product, I don't think that you have to be super huge in order to provide a way for people to just access games. To create a cloud instance in the sky, I don't think there's nothing wrong. I don't think you need, like me and my brother, one of the ventures that we were going to do is we were going to open up like a new age type of arcade where you would join our club, right? And we were going to do like this mini, because we were going to buy out this theater. We were going to do like a mini theater that had like anime and nerdy, geeky type movies in there, right? And then there was one section where we would have like all these PlayStations and Xboxes and stuff hooked up, and you can come and play with us if you didn't have any, or come play the games that we had. If you didn't have these games, you could come play them with us. You know what I mean? Come out, and then you would just give us a subscription. You would subscribe and become a member of club, whatever it was, Club Video Game Geek or whatever. You would subscribe to that, and you would get all these perks. Access to the movies, or discounts on the movies, discount, you know what I'm saying, of playing these games or whatever, or, you know, whatever. I don't think I have to be GameStop in order to provide you a way to play games. That's basically what Boosteroid is. They're just doing it over the cloud. So yeah, the argument that this company isn't big in their attempting to do this, I think it's a farce. So what? Who said you have to be big just to virtually give me a seat at a table where I can play a game? That's crazy. That's that big conglomerate talk, and big conglomeracy is what's taking gaming down the crapper right now. I'm gonna be honest with you, because all these big publishers are just replicating. They're trying to make the version of BioShock. BioShock was done years ago. Can we go somewhere else? And these platforms, they just want to give you prettier polygons and compute units, and they're not innovative. But then they want to charge you $500 for this console. The next generation upgrade is $500. It's 2 years down the line, but you really didn't get a next gen experience with the first one. As much as I adore AAA gaming, and I think it's important for these big companies to continue to influence AAA experiences, for the average Joe Schmo, that may not be par for the course. It is actually they're actually making the experience worse, less innovative, and less obtainable. So if Boosteroid again wants to drive their food truck up and serve hamburgers and hot dogs a block around the corner, a block away from McDonald's, fine. Hell, their hamburgers and hot dogs might taste better than anything you could get out of McDonald's. And it probably could be healthier for you because it's not mass produced. So then that takes me to the other thing. This whole excuse for GFN in comparison to GFN, I think is a farce. And I really think people should stop using it because they don't understand the history. And I hear a lot of this from people who clearly don't know the history. And when you're dealing with a group that may not have the legacy in gaming history to begin with, that becomes dangerous. So here's why GFN doesn't have the games that Boosteroid has. You do understand that at some point in time, like, there wouldn't have been a need for Boosteroid if the way GFN was planning to operate was allowed to, I mean, if that would have worked out for them. Let me not use the word allowed. If it would have worked out for them the way that they originally wanted it to, Boosteroid wouldn't even have a place in the market. What am I talking about? Here's what happened. Remember back in 2020, when Geforce Now released, they released with all the games that were in its beta product and its retail product. So they were making money off of games with no new agreements. Because these people had agreed, yeah, we'll come on GFN. And again, these agreements are 1v1. Yo, sure, yeah, we'll grant access via GFN. If this is what you're using it for, fine, not a problem. And then they switched the okie doke on these people. And a lot of these people, they realize, hold on, this is when cloud gaming, and as far as releasing your title on a cloud gaming platform, this is when the waters were a lot more murky. People were like, hold on, Stadia's paying us. We're gonna get a cut out of this Xbox thing. Why ain't you paying us? You're NVIDIA and you're huge. You already got skin in the game. Why ain't you paying us? And GFN's position then on that is what it is now. Look, we're just simply giving access to gamers who normally wouldn't be able to play your games. And B, because we're giving them that access, that allows more people to purchase your games than normally wouldn't. We're just simply charging them for the access. They still got to buy your game. So we're increasing the people that have access to your game. That's all we're charging for. We're not charging for access to the game. They still got to go buy it. Our $10 or whatever is $5.99, that doesn't give them access to the game alone. They still got to buy the game. It's just we're using, and they were like, well, but you're using our you're using our titles to allure them to that access, right? So the waters were murky. And then you had Shadow too in the background. But Shadow was more described as access to a PC. You know what I'm saying? So you had very few detractors from Shadow. But for the most part, people didn't care, right? And now that the waters aren't murky, GFN in the interim said, look, we don't ever want to go through this again. This is embarrassing. This was embarrassing. And it was to the point to where it could have shut down our business. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to require anybody that is on our service to sign an opt-in agreement. Because we don't want to go through that embarrassment again of someone just saying, you know what, we're pulling our game from your platform. So we're going to do an opt-in agreement. And the opt-in agreement was, if you provide us your game, you're providing it for it to stay, and you don't mind it. If you don't want to sign this agreement, then we're not putting your game on there if you don't feel comfortable doing it. Even though now we're out of murky waters, and now as a cloud platform, as long as you're just providing access, you don't have a storefront, you know what I'm saying? And all that other stuff that would really make the waters even more murky, to where, you know, it would kind of make the pursuit of them getting part of your proceeds more fathomable. As long as you're just providing the access, kind of like Shadow. As long as you're just providing the access, these companies for the most part seem okay with it, except for, you know, Xbox, of course, with their PC version of their games. They don't want their games available on the cloud except via xCloud. Understandable. But for the most part, these developers are okay with it. So, and these publishers are fine with it. So here's the thing. Using GFN as an example is a farce, because these games wouldn't be available, or how can I phrase this? It's not like GFN can't get games on the platform without the opt-in agreement being signed. It's not like these companies are like, hold on, we're not coming on your server, or we're not allowing our game. Okay, that's the better way to phrase it. These companies are not like, you cannot provide access to our games via cloud technology. You cannot provide the access unless we have an agreement. That's not where these companies are at. These companies, for the most part, do not care. The only reason why GFN has agreements is because they've already been, and GFN created those agreements. GFN said once all the murkiness was resolved and they understood the business model, GFN then said, well, hold on. Us talking ain't good enough. We want paper assurance. We want something in signing that you're not going to take this game away from us, because that was embarrassing and detrimental to our business model. And the companies that felt comfortable with that proposal said fine. But here's something else to take into consideration. Didn't PlayStation, did PlayStation sign the same opt-in agreement? Whichever way you answer that question proves my point. Let's just say yes, they signed the opt-in agreement. The opt-in agreement within itself doesn't guarantee that the game stays. So the game can be yanked anyway. So it just proves that the opt-in agreement isn't a necessity in order to get the game on there. Because PlayStation, remember, possibly signed one for God of War, for the original God of War to come on there. Let's just say no, they didn't sign an opt-in agreement. Again, my point is proven. The opt-in agreement was GFN's assurance for them to approach gamers and say, look, we would like to get your game on there, but we need assurances that you're going to keep the game on here. Sign this opt-in agreement. And really, if you look at what happened with God of War, possibly, if they did sign an opt-in agreement and Sony still pulled out, the opt-in agreement doesn't seem to be that binding. But what it does is it just shows GFN the headspace that the publisher or the developer is in, and how committed they are to allowing the game to remain on the service. That just helps them understand that. It's not a necessity if you're just granting access. So using GFN as an example is a farce. GFN could get Hogwarts likely and could get these other games on the service, but they've decided that we are not going to put any games on here unless they sign this opt-in agreement that makes us feel more comfortable with putting the title on there, because we can't go through what we went through before because that was embarrassing. Now, you may hear that and may say, well, what is that? Well, that's not reassuring that, well, shouldn't everybody have these opt-in agreements? Right now, it doesn't seem like a necessity. Shadow, I don't think Shadow's getting games yanked, and we haven't seen Boosteroid get games yanked. Because again, there was a reckoning, there was understanding of what the business model was when there wasn't at first. And part of it was too, is that GFN had access to these titles. They were transitioning from a beta aspect to a retail aspect and didn't communicate really with anybody and let them understand what was going on. So you can't use GFN as an example in this case. Doesn't jive. All right. But that being said, what is the takeaway on all this? My final, I still got to fix that. My final takeaway on all this is this. Okay, it looks like Boosteroid started as something else. All right? It looks like they started out as something else. And hold on, before I go any further, let me grab this. Let me copy this. Let me put this up here. So for all intents and purposes, it looks like that Boosteroid started out as something else. That's what I could find looking at this evidence, this, that, and the third, and cross-referencing that to my knowledge and understanding that, hey, these people are doing things nefariously internationally, and now they're utilizing the same assets to do business in the States. That was going to stop. That would spark a flag, maybe like, reasonably on OFAC and other regulatory systems that help catch stuff like stuff like this is being watched and monitored because it could be the precursor of money laundering, war crime, all types of stuff. And if you're in a war-torn country doing nefarious stuff, the government is watching you. Believe you me. That being said, the government is watching you and they know who you are. But yeah, Boosteroid likely started off as, it looks like Boosteroid started as a blockchain company. Then they changed what they were doing. Companies that I've referenced to as small as mine, that I've had back in the day, to as big as Nintendo, would be criminal if the same logic that, Boosteroid was something else and now they're this now, something completely different. If that logic was the status quo, then Nintendo wouldn't be around. I want to show you something else. I want to show you the final exhibit. And this is where I really say people got to be cautious when you got to understand what you know and what you don't know. And if you're new to this whole gaming thing, you got to be cautious to entities that put out a lot of stuff out there that may sound good and may sound sexy, but they don't kick the tires on their own stuff. $12 companies that started as something completely different. Here goes a list of them right here. We got Marriott Hotels, Taco Bell, Flickr, Nintendo, Samsung, Wrigley's Gum, Colgate, American Express, NASCAR. Wait till I get to that one. Avon, Tiffany, there's many of them. But these are some of the most affluent ones. Let me explain to you what they were. Marriott Hotel. They used to be root beer makers. Flickr, the place where I think Google, somebody bought them, but they were like one of the largest sites for images. So right before that, they were an online chat room. Nintendo, before selling cards and making Mario games and selling games all across the globe and having a deep, rich history in video games, they simply sold playing cards. Samsung, the makers of some of the best TVs and phones out there, they were a noodle and dry fish export company. These next two are very interesting. American Express, the credit card company, you know, American Express, Visa, don't leave home without it, right? American Express was a mail carrier service on horseback. And last but certainly not least, NASCAR. This is an interesting one. I'm going to read this to you just to show you that how things come from the artist's beginnings. NASCAR began where many startups have done since the pub. During the Prohibition in America, which made alcohol illegal, people in the Deep South began manufacturing liquor illegally. What began as a way of keeping themselves busy and drunk soon grew into something larger. In order to outrun police, they developed souped-up cars. This could help them get away quickly with gallons of illegal liquor. Their boredom soon led to racing in these highly charged cars. It became something of a spectator sport and went on to be one of the biggest motor events in the world. So actually, NASCAR was doing something illegal and nefarious in helping push alcohol that was illegal at the time during Prohibition and help people escape the police. And look at where they're at now. You actually have a company that is illegal, that started off on illegal means. We don't have any evidence of that with Boosteroid. NASCAR did it. Are you giving up your NASCAR? Are you giving up your NASCAR? I think not. Here's the moral of the story. If people want to be this anal about affiliations of companies in regards to who they're going to purchase things from, then fine. Fine. But these superficial practices within themselves, or these superficial observations or things that you come across within themselves, do not mean something nefarious is happening now. Here's why a lot of this gumshoe conspiracy theory stuff is getting oxygen right now. Most of you absorbing all these conspiracy theories are new to gaming and how the business of it works, frankly. And again, no, I'm not saying this like I'm better than y'all, or You just got to know what you know and know what you don't know, because that's how you keep yourself from being bamboozled. You can be bamboozled from a product. You can be bamboozled from the quote unquote advice that you get from people. And because a lot of us in this space don't understand gaming and how the business works, we've developed our own echo chamber due to mainstream's inability to understand cloud gaming in particular. Right? Because mainstream did such a horrible job in understanding this thing that we did research when it comes to the greater gaming experience that we haven't researched as much as we have cloud gaming, we're kind of at a loss. And these same echo chambers that we created under legitimate means, right? The flip side of it is they unfortunately have kept us from very important history and understanding. The lack of understanding causes us to fill in the gaps with hearsay. We find these evidentiary truths in the most superficial of instances. We regurgitate it and massively spread it within the hive. Next thing you know, these conspiracy theories have become gospel. The problem is, however, not only does this keep us from fact-based knowledge building, but it continues to ostracize us from the plateau we generally seek acceptance from: the mainstream. We want the mainstream to appreciate the games that we play and the way that we play via the cloud. We want them to appreciate that more. We want them to better understand it and see the benefits of it. Because we know once that happens, then what we're following will no longer be niche. It'll grow and it will manifest itself into something that'll benefit everybody. We understand that. But that doesn't happen when we go about things this way and we create these alternate realities. Why? Because simply put, this issue's weird. It's just weird. I mean, I show this stuff to my mainstream content creators, and I hear all the time, where did that come from? That's not how this stuff works. And they say to me all the time, MM, y'all mugs is weird, man. Just come back over to this side. And I'm like, no, y'all don't understand. Just a lack of understanding in certain areas. Otherwise, we're very bright and we get to the bottom of things, but the things that we don't understand, we don't always do the best research on, and we fill in our own gaps of understanding with conjecture. Well, if you're fine with remaining in the echo chamber as such, because imaginary land feels safer for you, then cool. If mainstream acceptance is the long-term goal, then you have to better understand how things actually work and what actions actually mean XYZ. Accusations like this without exact evidence simply does the opposite. That's it from your boy. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. I appreciate all of y'all. Thank y'all for giving me your time. Let me know if you think I'm full of baloney or garbage or trash, or if there's anything else evidentiary that I may have missed or whatever. Let me know. With that said, until the next time, have a wonderful, wonderful gaming day. Peace.